Hey there, ramblers and rovers. I am Miguel, and today we are at the site of Mayapan, a post-classic ancient Mayan site here in southern Yucatan. We are perhaps 45 minutes to an hour outside of Merida and enjoying this spectacular compact site, perfect for coming out on a day trip, renting a car, going and doing a few cenotes and getting your ruins in. So let's go see how it is. A little bit of the history of Mayapan. Mayapan was the capital of the Mayans here in the region during the post-classic age.
Hello.
Hi.
They're just cool. So what you're saying is I should have taken it more seriously. Do you want an actual serious? No, I don't even know how. I don't even know how it goes.
This is a pretty nice site. It's pretty compact, so it's perfect for spending maybe an hour, hour and a half or so exploring the ruins without having to walk as much. So maybe if you're somebody who struggles a little walking like the longer distances in some of the bigger sites, this might be a better fit for you. And it is just, it's so hot right now because it's the tail end of the dry season. So as you can see behind me, all the forest is pretty dry and it can be pretty hot. And so yeah, I mean, bring your hat, bring your water, and bring sunblock. Those are some of the essential tips for how to enjoy a site like this. It also really helps to do a little bit of research beforehand so that you can read about and hear about all the nice details that make this site interesting, such as that this was the seat of power for the Kulan dynasty during the 1400s, you know, during the time of the Crusades and Christopher Columbus. This used to be the place to be in eastern Yucatan. So we are walking along the path of the walls of Mayapan. Mayapan was one of the few Mayan cities that had any kind of walls, and that's because during the Mayan post-classic period, which kind of equates to the European Dark Ages, after a period of wars and environmental devastation and political upheaval, like Mayan civilization was greatly suffering. So after centuries of warring and just in general instability in the Mayan world, they started to build cities with walls to just protect themselves from other warring city-states or rivals. So just kind of contrary to maybe like popular belief that this was like a unified empire, kind of like the Aztecs were. In reality, this would have looked more like Greece. So you would have had these very powerful city-states that control other smaller city-states and who have these other city-states that are rivals, and so there's this constant warring, this push-pulling to see which Mayan kingdom is going to become the most important, the most powerful, and the most glorious. So it's just very interesting how there are so many parallels to like the Greeks. They used to have this very mystical, fantastical mythology and pantheon of gods and creatures and heroes, and it was just such an epic civilization, and you can just really see it in how they built and how they lived. Coming to places like this is the best way to connect with the past in a more direct form, and to just kind of be here allows you to just try to picture how it would have been. I mean, this city was a city with over 12, 15, 17,000 people, and right now all that's really excavated and shown to the public is the city center, and which is only a small fraction of it. So it always fascinates me to come to the ruins. I mean, you guys know I am a fan of Maya culture, so here we are.
I can hear Adrian say,
We
I
are
wonder how many people have
about
gone.
to ascend the Temple of Kukulkan up all these stairs. It's very narrow, so we have to be very, very careful. If this isn't epic, it's like climbing the steps of history.
What's crazy is how much food is up there. So some kind of animal making it all the way up here.
I don't think that's all.
So now we're at the top of the pyramid of Kukulkan here in Mayapan. This whole structure is a copy of the one in Chichen Itza, but a lesser copy. Chichen Itza dates from an earlier time period, and Mayan civilization was in decline, so the monuments were not as grandiose as they were in the past. And this city flourished at the very tail end of that, right before the arrival of the Spanish. So you have this influence from Chichen and like the grandeur of like that great city. You even have like this building here that is almost like a copy of the observatory in Chichen Itza. What a view. So these are other structures that have not entirely been reconstructed. So this is how archaeologists find pyramids and other structures before they are excavated. So this is what it would look like when like the first people would come here to try and do digs and explorations. And then from that to this takes a lot of work. So right behind me here in this side of the pyramid, you have this nook right above where the head of that flayed man being torn apart by the birds is. So back in olden times, sacrificial victims would be decapitated and their heads would be placed in there as, well, for whatever religious significance it had. I mean, I'm not sure what it is, but people's heads would be put in that nook, and this is just kind of evidence of the influence of the Aztecs, because by the time of the Mayan post-classic, the Aztecs had quite a bit of influence in the region, and the cult of Quetzalcoatl, who is represented in this pyramid as Kukulkan, became widespread as Aztec influence started to permeate this area. And it's kind of stands out a little bit to reason because this is one of the areas of the Mayan world that is the closest to central Mexico. From here you have Campeche, and then from Campeche onwards is central Mexico and like the lands that would have been Mixtec and all these different peoples. So this would have been pretty much at the crossroads of between all these different worlds in ancient Mesoamerica. Interestingly enough, the pyramid is constructed right next to a cenote, its very own cenote. Here in this region of Yucatan, there are no rivers, no streams. The only water source available to people in this blistering hot heat would have been the local cenote. So here right behind me, which is protected by this thatched roof, you have the remains of wall and mural paintings that were painted here hundreds of years ago by the ancient Maya. These are very rare and very valuable because of the heat and the weather here in Yucatan and in like the Mayan world in general. The paint would have degraded very easily, so you have very few examples of actual mural art that Mayans would have had in their temples, for example at Bonampak in the Lacandon jungle. So the fact that you have it here this is a real treasure. Right? It feels so cool in here. There's actually like a nice breeze running through the whole temple. Swallows. These are all the stones that the archaeologists found, and they're protecting them here from the elements instead of leaving them out there in the middle of the sun and the rain and exposure. You can still see the paint, the original paint on some of these. So interesting. So after an hour and a half or 2 hours of exploring this ancient site and just everything it has to offer, learning so much about the past and the ancient cultures that call this region of the earth their home, we are ready to leave and go dip into a cenote. So I hope you guys liked this video. If you did, give it a thumbs up, share it with your friends, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button to join us as we keep exploring the world and keep bringing you stories from the forgotten corners of the globe. Until our next adventure, adios!